Hello everybody, I'm Yemi and today I'll be showing you how to sew on your sewing machine. So this is the product CS6000i. I got this like 5 months ago, about 6 months now. So this is like where I put my thread. This is my tension. I'm just showing you like the basic parts. So here I have my start and stop button. Not every machine has this, but a lot of them do have this now. I have my back stitch, my needle, my speed control. I also have my digital display here for adjusting my stitch length and stitch width and my different stitches. So I have 60 on this sewing machine. I also have my hand wheel. So I use this to move my needle up and down. And right where the needle is, I have my drop-in bobbin case. So a lot of machines have this these days. My older machine did not have this drop-in bobbin, so you had to like manually fix the bobbin in a certain way. So that's the foot of my sewing machine, and here is my foot pedal. So I have a start and stop button as I showed you earlier. That's my power cord, but for this video I'll be using my foot pedal. So here's a bag that contains some other instruments that I use, my other foots. On the side of the sewing machine I have like a storage for my needles and my bobbins and my foot, some extra foot as well. So they're called presser foots actually. So now I'm going to plug in my sewing machine, and to do that I'm going to start by connecting my power cord to the side. So you have to check well to see that you're placing it properly. And I'm also going to connect my foot pedal. So for this video, like I said earlier, I'm going to be using the foot pedal. I have a start and stop button, but I don't want to use that today because I know that not every sewing machine has that. So I'm just going to connect my foot pedal. Usually the start and stop button does not work if you have your foot pedal connected, but if you don't have it connected, then you use the start and stop button. So now I'm going to plug my sewing machine right now, and I'm also going to turn it on the side. So as you can see, that light comes on. The downside of this sewing machine is that the light is not too bright, which is not really nice. You need to get like extra lighting to be able to use it properly. So when you're sewing, you use like 2 threads, the regular thread you get in the store, and then you also fix thread on your bobbin, that little plastic there. So some people have like metal bobbins, just saying that in case yours looks like that. So first we're going to put thread on our bobbin because that's the first thing we're going to do basically. So these are instructions on my own sewing machine. Your sewing machine will have like different instructions, so you should usually check your manual out. So because that thread is really big, I'm just going to put it around where it should actually be. If I'm using like a really small thread, you can definitely just put it on top. And I'm just going to put my thread around that thing that looks like a knob or like a screw. I'm going to put it around, basically following the instruction that I have on my sewing machine. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to now put the thread in my bobbin. Now on the bobbin you have like 2 holes, usually on the top and on the bottom, but my thread is quite blunt, so I'm just going to cut it and then try putting it in again. So the circles are not actually really tiny, but I just like things to be easy, so I'm just going to put it through the hole and then put my bobbin right on the holder. So the way we're going to wind this thread is going to be like, will I say it clockwise. So make sure you align your bobbin properly. It kind of makes like a snapping sound to let you know that you placed it right. So now I'm just going to snap it to the right, like so. And now we're ready to put thread on it. So basically you just press your foot pedal and the thing starts turning. So when it turns a few times, you just grab your scissors and cut that excess thread off. There's actually a blade underneath the bobbin that you can actually use, but I'm just going to use my scissors for this video. So usually you can wind it to its full. The machine will actually stop on its own when it's full, but for this video I will not be winding it to its full. I'll just stop somewhere And I'm doing that deliberately because I know I'm not going to use white thread soon and I will need the bobbin soon, so I just want to use white thread for this video. So I'm going to snap this to the right, no, to the left now. Since I'm done, I've put as much thread as I think I would need. I'm just going to cut the excess and remove my bobbin. So I'm going to put my bobbin right in the place where it's supposed to be. Like I said earlier, I have a drop-in bobbin case, so I basically just put that inside. I just drop it inside. So when I drop it inside, it's going to be like, it's going to be coming out like in anti-clockwise direction or motion. And I'm just following the instructions on the side too. So that's how I fixed it, and I cover it. Now let's fix our upper thread. So I'll be using the foot J. It's like the multi-purpose foot for this sewing machine. It does a lot of stitches. So that's what I'll be using for this video. So to put that, in case that wasn't on already, I just press the button behind there, and then I fix the foot. Things have a way of misbehaving when you're showing them on camera. So that's pretty much how I do it. And now it's ready to go. Now let's fix our upper thread for the sewing machine. Oops, one more thing. So if you needed to change your needle, there's like a key that comes with the sewing machine. You basically use that to turn that screw. So you're going to turn it anti-clockwise to open it, and then clockwise to close it. So I'm not going to be changing my needle today or replacing my needle. That only happens when I'm maybe trying to sew like a knit fabric, or if my needle breaks or bends. So that happens sometimes, and you just have to change your needle. But if you're sewing like a knit fabric, you have to change your needle to like a ballpoint needle so that your fabric does not fray, have large holes, stuff like that. So now I'm going to fix my upper thread. I'm basically following all the instructions on my sewing machine. There are numbers everywhere that kind of guide you to know where your thread should be. So I put that up and then bring it down again, and then there's like this little like iron ring. I pass it through that as well, and I use my threader to fix the thread into the needle. So you can pass your thread from front to back. If you do not have like an automatic threader on your sewing machine, you can just pass your thread from front to back to front. I wouldn't even call this one automatic because you still have to like use your hand to fix it, but that's how this one works anyway. So now I'm just going to use press my needle button, and then use my needle to grab my lower thread. So you might not be able to see, but the thread is already out. It's just looking like it's not. You can also use your hand wheel to do this. I usually use my needle button. I've gotten used to using my needle button. On my older machine, I would use the hand wheel to do a lot of things. So I'd say that's the good thing about having the computerized sewing machine. It makes your life kind of easy, but you do get used to some things. So this is my speed control. I'll show you that when I start sewing. This is my digital display, and here are all my stitches. I use this for the first digit. I use this to fix the second digit, so it just helps me select a stitch. So if I was selecting 19, that's what it would be. If I was selecting 29, which is a buttonhole, it kind of shows you what foot you should be using. As you can see on that screen, it's showing you A. So I'm using the foot J, and a lot of the stitches work with foot J, so that's what I'll be using. For the straight stitches, you can see that there's no stitch width. It's kind of blank there. If I was doing a basic stitch, I will increase my stitch up to like 5, but for my regular stitches, I just use like 2.5. So you have the circle there showing you that you're on the default setting for that stitch. So because it's a straight stitch, you don't have anything for your stitch width. But say if I was using like 3 or 4, which is like zigzag, or the one they use for like stretchy fabrics, it will show you like a stitch width, which I think is kind of understandable. So when you're sewing, usually when you're sewing, you're either trying to join two pieces of fabric together, or you might be just joining the fabric to itself. So now when you have fabrics like this, you kind of have to mark your front and your back, that's your right side and your wrong side, before you start sewing, so you know what you're doing. So I'm going to grab my chalk now and mark my wrong side. So usually the wrong side is kind of slightly faded compared to the right side. So when you're sewing, you join your two right sides facing each other, and then you join those two pieces together. There are rare circumstances where you'll be joining your right side to your wrong side. It happens when you're doing certain styles, but it's not really common. Or let's say it's common, actually, it's kind of common. So I'd say if you were doing like a color, like a Peter Pan color, and it wasn't like two-sided, but let's leave that for non-beginners. So there's this lever that you use to bring your foot down and lift it up. So that's what you're going to do when you want to fix your fabric. You lift it up, put your fabric, and you put it down. So now it's time to sew. Put your leg on your foot pedal and you start sewing. So when I do a few stitches, I'm just going to press that button that looks like a reverse or a U-turn. I'm going to press that and then go back. So this kind of secures your stitch and ensures that your stitch does not unravel. Is this stitch or stitches? Your stitches do not unravel, basically. So I'm going to sew, and when I get to the end of my fabric, I'll do the same thing again. Well, when I get to the end, basically, I do the same thing. I press that back stitch button and I secure my stitch at the end. I do not always use back stitches. It really depends on what I'm sewing. If I know I'm completing the garment, like totally completing the garment, that's when I use a back stitch. But when I know I'm still going to sew over that area again, I really don't bother. So when I'm done, I lift my lever, I press my needle button to take it off, and then I pull my fabric away. So I'll grab my scissors and cut this, or I could use the blade on the side of this sewing machine. There's a blade on the side. I could just cross the stitch over and cut it off, and that's it. So this is my speed control. I'm just going to show you quickly how the speed control works. So my fabric is set, and then I'll start sewing. So if I move my speed control to the right, it kind of goes real fast, and then I move it to the left and it kind of goes super slow. So for a beginner, start with the slow to the medium. As you get better, you'll be able to use like the fast side. But to be honest, you most likely be sewing around the medium. So except you're used to sewing like on industrial machines, of course you will not be watching this video. Those ones are really super fast. So now the other instance when you'll be sewing is when you're trying to join a fabric to itself, and in that case you'll probably be doing hems or finishing the neckline or doing the armhole or doing sleeves. So in a case like this, you'll be kind of joining the fabric, that piece of fabric to itself, kind of. So you do this by doing something like a rolled hem. It's called a rolled hem in most cases. You just fold it that way, and then you align your fabric, ensure that the needle is like close to the edge of the side you folded, and then you start sewing. So also remember to do your back stitching. I didn't really do that at the beginning, but you should remember to do your back stitching. If you're sewing round a sleeve, you might not need to, because you'll probably come back to where you started, but just don't forget to do your back stitching so that your stitches do not unravel. Well, I think we've kind of come to the end of this very long video. The last thing I want you to remember is your seam ripper. This is your best friend. You would use it all the days of your life as a tailor, as a sewer, as someone that sews basically. So you're going to use this to take out stitches when you make mistakes, or when you have errors, or if it was a basting stitch, it was a temporary stitch, you use this a lot. So don't be shy, make sure you use it every time that you need it, and make sure you have a lot in case you tend to lose things that look tiny like this. So if the blade, it has like a little blade in the center that kind of cuts the thread. So if the blade got like really blunt, you could just use something like an iron sponge to sharpen it. Just run the blade there through an iron sponge and it will be sharp again. So that's pretty much how you deal with that. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I'm happy that you got to the end, and I hope that you do get your sewing machine soon and start sewing. And if this video was helpful in any way, please subscribe, please like, drop a comment, and if you have any questions, do ask me. See you in my next video. Stay safe. Bye.